Hey guys, this is Allison Cawthon. I'm a music education student at the Frost School of Music at the University of Miami, and today will be my second how-to video for playing instruments, specifically woodwinds, and today we will be learning how to play the clarinet. So, what we're going to start with is this little wooden piece, and it's called a reed. It's got a thicker section at the bottom and a thinner at the top. So what we're going to do with the reed is put it in our mouths. So I want everyone to just go ahead and do that. Stick the thin part all the way in your mouth so it's about halfway in. It looks like this. I want you to keep the reed in your mouth for the rest of the portion while I talk about the instrument, because if it's a new reed specifically, it's going to need a lot of moisture for the clarinet to work. So keep it in your mouths. I'm going to have to take it out because I have to speak, but you keep it in. We're going to start with the bottom of the clarinet. This is called the bell. And the bell attaches to this longer piece of the clarinet. It has one piece of cork and one piece that's not cork. So what you're going to do with the piece of cork, you're just going to push it into the bell and wiggle a little bit. Now, if it's hard to get that on, there should be a little bit of resistance, but if it's really hard to get it on, you'll probably need to buy this stuff called cork grease, and put cork grease on the cork part of your clarinet every time you put it on or off. Normally I'm still doing that because mine is a little bit hard to put it on. I already put it on my instrument though, so I don't need to demonstrate that. It looks like chapstick though, so you just put the chapstick around the cork parts. Next we're going to have the upper section of the clarinet. It's the other one that looks like the lower section, except it has two pieces of cork at the end. So you say, Allison, how do I know which side to put in it? Well, only one side fits, so that helps. But the other thing that will help you is there are 4 teardrops at the bottom of the side that connects to the lower section. And under the 4 teardrops, there's going to be a little table-looking thing, and the table-looking thing is going to connect to this thing on the lower clarinet. It looks kind of like a mushroom, so you're going to put the table directly over the mushroom. And if that's not helping you, you need to make sure they're lined up, and then that should make sure that all of your buttons are also lined up. So if they're not lined up, go back and watch how I did that one more time. Next piece is going to be the barrel, and you're going to stick it on the side that fits on the cork. Next one is your mouthpiece, and the flat part with the hole in the mouthpiece is going to line up with the key, with the octave, and the side with the one button on it. So you line up the flat part of the clarinet of the mouthpiece with the octave key and the hole on the back. This metal piece is called a ligature, and its purpose is going to be to keep your reed on the instrument because clarinet is a reed instrument. So it just slides right on your mouthpiece, and you want the sides with the buttons to kind of line up with your mouthpiece. The button should be off to the side, and the center part should match with the center of the mouthpiece. So hopefully you've been soaking your reed this whole time because we're going to use it now. You need to put the flat, thicker part into the section between your ligature and your mouthpiece. So you might have to move your ligature up a little bit to get your reed between it and the mouthpiece. So it should slide all the way down. You can slide your ligature down. Now what you do is you move the reed up until you see just a little bit of space between the reed and the black. So if you turn the clarinet around, so I can't see the reed right now, it should not be visible above the clarinet on the background. I can't see the reed right now because it's not facing me, but it shouldn't have a lot of space between the black and the reed, or else you're not going to get a good sound. So this is about where it should be. If you see here, there's just a little bit of space between the top of the mouthpiece and the top of the reed. And then once you get it in correct positioning, you're going to tighten the ligature by spinning the buttons away from you, and you tighten until it naturally stops. Don't force it. Next, we're going to discuss finger placement and how to hold the clarinet. Take your right hand and hold up your thumb. Now look at the space between your knuckle and the top of your nail. That's where you're going to balance the clarinet. If you look at the back of the clarinet, where you have your reed with the open part of the mouthpiece, your octave key, your hole, a little bit farther down, there should be a piece of metal that jets out. Here. The space between your knuckle and the top of your thumb is going to be placed there. Your nail should be facing towards you. Make sure you're not balancing the clarinet using this part of your hand. That could give you carpal tunnel. Make sure you're not using this part of your thumb. That could also give you carpal tunnel, and no one wants that. Yes, it will hurt a little bit at first using the space between your knuckle and the top of your thumb, but ultimately you will get calluses later, which will protect your hand. If it's still really hurting after a month or two, you can also get a thumb guard, and if you really are having a lot of trouble, they have neck straps, which will help hold up the clarinet. But for now, I'd suggest just trying to strengthen your thumb, because the calluses will come and it will feel okay after a while. Once you have your thumb placed where it should be, come your fingers on your right hand. You're going to stick your pointer finger on the lower portion of the clarinet, and there should be 3 open keys, and it's simple. You put your pointer finger on the first open key, you put your middle finger on the second open key, and you put your ring finger on the third open key, which should leave you with your pinky hovering over 4 keys that are 2 are on top of the other 2. For your right hand, you're going to rest your left thumb on the back of the clarinet, hovering kind of over the hole. Don't press on the hole, because that will cause a note to come out, a different note than you would if it wasn't covering the hole. Just kind of rest it around that area. And then you want to put your pointer finger on the top open key of the upper portion of the clarinet, and then you want your middle finger on the second hole of the clarinet and your ring finger on the third hole. I don't have any metal around the third hole, so don't let that trip you up. And then your pinky should be hovering over these 3 keys that kind of look like golf clubs. All right, that's how you hold the clarinet. Next, I know we just assembled the clarinet, but I wanted you to learn how to do that before we learned how to start articulations and making noise. So I'm going to have you disassemble your clarinet now. To disassemble it, every time you're going to have to take off your ligature and your reed. And I know that's very difficult, because it's difficult to find a good spot for your reed, especially the first couple of times. But if you don't take it off every time, you could break your reed, and those are expensive, and then you have to start soaking it again from the very beginning. You should soak your reed every time, but it takes more time the first couple times. So to disassemble your clarinet, just the top part, we're just disassembling the top part, you need to unscrew your ligature by turning the knobs towards you. Take off your ligature. Take off your reed more carefully than I just did, since it fell. Take off your mouthpiece, and take off your barrel. Let me just wipe off my reed really quickly. Okay. Put the rest of your clarinet down. For now, we're going to work on that later. Right now, we're just going to start with the barrel. Grab your barrel. Put your mouthpiece on wherever on the barrel. Put on your ligature. And then put on your reed. We're just going to make sounds using the mouthpiece and the barrel right now. If it feels really weird for you to be holding both, you can just hold the mouthpiece without the barrel, but I like to have something to hold on to, so I also connect the barrel. Producing sound on the clarinet is easier than producing it on the flute if you're starting this one and have learned flute before, but it's harder to make lower noises on the clarinet than it is on the flute. For the flute, once you get it, you kind of have it. For the clarinet, you have to keep relearning how to make noise. So, holding the clarinet, you're going to put your top teeth on the top of the mouthpiece. That should not be the open hole. Your reed should be covering the open hole. And then you're going to put your bottom lip a little bit over your bottom teeth. So your top teeth should be touching the top of the mouthpiece. I got that wrong my first couple of days trying this. I didn't have my teeth touching it because it feels weird when it vibrates, but you have to have it touching. So have your top teeth touching the top of the mouthpiece, have your bottom lip covering your bottom teeth, and put it about halfway over your reed for the moment, and then you're going to have to play with going back and forth between how far the reed needs to go into your mouth to figure out what the best sound is for you. It just depends on your lips. But once you get a sound, you're going to have to use quite a bit of air to produce sound, so make sure you're sitting up straight with both your feet touching the ground and your shoulders straight, so you have good air coming from your diaphragm. So top teeth, cover your bottom teeth, and make sure you're not doing chipmunk cheeks whenever you go. Don't do this. That's not good sound. Make sure your cheeks stay in. A good sound should sound and look like this. It sounds a bit like a dying cat, but that is okay because we are producing sound. So it's always a good idea to warm up just using the barrel and the mouthpiece. So just continue doing that for a while. See how loud or soft you can go. See what it feels like to push air. Continue doing that. That is how you start making noise on the clarinet. So we're going to grab our clarinet again and put the barrel with the mouthpiece back on. Make sure that your reed is facing the octave key like we talked about earlier. Okay. We're going to discuss articulation now. Let's make a sound on the clarinet first. Don't hold down any holes. Make sure your thumb's resting under the portion of the metal thing that juts out on the bottom part of the clarinet. Don't push down any holes. We're just going to put our mouth on the mouthpiece and blow. If you're not getting any noise or if you're just getting squeaking, play with how far in or out the mouthpiece goes. For me, if I go too far down, it squeaks like this. But when I pull it back up further, the sound comes out. Now that note is a G, so no holes is going to be a G on the clarinet. So play your G again. And right now, a little bit of a louder sound is good because you are trying to produce as much sound as possible right now. How to do articulations on the clarinet? You're going to take your tongue and kind of say da, da, da whenever you're playing. So the top of your tongue is going to touch the top of the reed. So just try it, saying da, 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 using correct positioning around the clarinet by closing your lips around it like this. So just keep saying da, da, da. If you're getting some squeaking in between, that's okay. I'm also still getting a little bit of squeaking in between, but just continue working on that. And once you master articulation, you're going to want to use it all the time when playing. So let's do the da, da, da again. And it should be stopping the sound in between each. That's why you're articulating it. So as I said earlier, make sure you're sitting with both feet on the ground with your shoulders back because you're going to want to use a lot of air on this. If you start to feel lightheaded, I would suggest stopping for a while, taking a 5-minute break. Once I played for a little bit over 30 minutes, I start to get tired. For beginners, it's going to be a lot less time than that. So make sure you give yourself plenty of breaks. If you're having trouble producing sound on your clarinet, there could be a couple problems. The main one is that you're not covering your holes all the way. So that was my problem when I first started. I was so aggravated that I couldn't play below a C. And I just could not figure out what the problem was, and it's just that my fingers, they're kind of small, so I wasn't covering the holes all the way, because once I'd get lower, my fingers would tighten. So if you look at yourself, if you just hold your other hand out, if you put your hand around it and tighten, if you notice, your fingers move whenever you tighten. So I had a bad habit of tightening my fingers as I got lower because I was scared my clarinet was going to fall out of my mouth, or that I didn't have a good enough grip on it. So I tightened, and that would cause air to slip through the holes, which would cause sound not to come out. If you're having this problem, first thing I'd recommend is continue to try to let go of your clarinet a little bit. Make sure you're balancing it between your thumb and your teeth. Your teeth are a very valuable resource when playing the clarinet. You don't bite on it, but you can use it for balance. That's how it was intended. But if you just cannot manage to get a good sound out below a C like I could, or one of the other lower notes, a thing that could help you as a beginner, put the bottom of your bell on the end of one of your knees and try playing like that. So it gives you kind of a stand, so your thumb and your teeth don't have to hold the clarinet by themselves. And I wouldn't recommend this for a long-term anything, because it's kind of a bad habit to form, but as someone who's just starting out, it's something that will help you at least learn how to play the lower notes. And if you're still not getting notes out, it could be one of the other problems, which could be you've got a leak possibly in your clarinet, and I would recommend going to a music shop or getting on YouTube and searching, what's wrong with my clarinet or something like that. But the first thing I try is making sure, absolute positivity, that you're covering all of the holes, because that's the number one problem when people aren't getting a sound out. And for that, try to cover the holes, try to loosen up a little bit on them if you're tightening like I was. Try to make sure they're completely covering the holes. If you can't get it, put it on the end of your knee and play like that, because that's a helpful way to start out. But make sure you're not doing that for the rest of your life, because it's you need to learn how to hold it yourself. But until your calluses form, stuff like that, if your hands are just too tired to play the low notes, that's a good way to cheat at the beginning. We already learned how to play G. That was our note where we don't cover any of the holes. It's open. It sounds like this. I'm going to demonstrate an F major scale for you, just so you can hear how that sounds on clarinet. Just for your information, F major, you're going to cover all of the holes that you have your main fingers on, and your pinky down here is going to be on the second one farthest from you on the top. This will be Beethoven's theme from Symphony No. 9. Once you feel you've mastered the lower notes, it's okay to move on to the higher notes. How you do that is you're going to hit the octave key I was talking about earlier on the back. Now, on the clarinet and on most woodwinds, the octave key just is not a perfect octave. For example, if I wanted to play a high E, I would cover with my left hand all the way down to C, and with my right hand I'd cover B, and I'd also cover A. So the transition from A to E, I'm just going to play A for now. If I wanted to play the high E, I would continue covering the note on the back of the clarinet, the hole on the back that you're covering for F. You cover that and you move your thumb up a little bit to also cover the octave key. So it looks like this. Octave key's held down, this button's held down. So here's my A, and then I'm going to go from low A to hitting the high E. One more time, I would say if you're trying to do this for the first time, don't take a breath in between playing the A and the E. That's going to stop your stream of air and it's going to be harder for you to hit it. A to E one more time. That's pretty much everything I wanted to cover in my intro to clarinet video. Now we're just going to talk about maintenance and how to disassemble your clarinet. So as we said earlier, you're going to take your ligature, and you have to take your reed off every time unless you want to be spending a lot of money on reeds because you're going to break it. Don't let yourself get lazy and keep your reed on there. Don't do it. So take your ligature off, then your reed off, take your mouthpiece off, take your barrel off. Keep the upper and lower sections on right now, but take your bell off. The reason I asked you to take off the other ones and not your upper and lower sections are because we are going to have to clean the upper and lower sections. In order to clean them, you're going to have to get something like this. It's a cloth at the end with a weight at the other end. You're going to stick the weight in one of the sides of them and let it go all the way through the clarinet until it reaches the bottom, and then pull your cloth through your clarinet. You may be thinking, do I have to do this every time? Yes, you do, because there's a lot of spit that gets inside the clarinet, and if you let it stay there, it could get moldy, and that's just really gross. So make sure you clean out your clarinet every time. And it's also good, it's totally fine to clean out your barrel and your bell too. That's not going to hurt your clarinet at all. It would probably be a good idea, but mainly make sure you clean out your lower and your upper joints. So then you're going to wiggle your joints a little bit to get them off. And you're just going to put it back in the box where you found it. Some resources that I have for you are, I use this book in class. It's called Book 1, B-Flat Clarinet, Standard of Excellence, Comprehensive Band Method by Bruce Pearson. It has a lot of exercises and how to play notes and things like that, and I like it because it's got a lot of, it's very user-friendly. It's not very complicated to read. I will say it doesn't have a lot of extra information in it. It doesn't have a lot of troubleshooting things, but if you're looking for a book to get you started with and you have lots of exercises, it's a very good book for you. If you're wondering where to buy the cleaning cloths, they sell them on Amazon for cheap money. You could also go to pretty much any music store and buy one also. I hope this helped you learn how to play the clarinet and have fun playing music.